The city gleamed under the twin suns, its tall towers stretching like fingers into the violet sky. People moved quickly along the streets, their clothes shimmering with strange fabrics that seemed alive. In the center of the city stood the Grand Palace, its walls carved with patterns that pulsed faintly like they were breathing. No one entered the palace freely. Only the chosen few were allowed inside. But today, fate had chosen differently. Kieran, a young man with messy dark hair and curious green eyes, had always been fascinated by the palace. Every night, he watched from the shadowed streets as the fountains in the courtyard reflected the light of the twin suns, sparkling like liquid crystal. He had heard rumors that the water in the palace fountains was not ordinary water. Some said it could change a person forever. Others whispered that it was cursed. Kieran didn't believe in curses. He only believed in curiosity. He moved quietly along the cobblestones, heart pounding. The guards at the gates barely noticed him. They were massive, clad in shining armor that hummed with energy, their eyes glowing faintly. Kieran had seen them countless times, but today he had a plan. He slipped past a corner, ducking behind a sculpture that looked like a giant winged creature, its stone eyes staring blankly at the streets. Inside the palace courtyard, the fountain gleamed brighter than anything Kieran had ever seen. Water flowed upward as if pulled by invisible hands, spinning in delicate spirals before falling into the basin below. It was mesmerizing. He stepped closer, feeling an odd pull in his chest, a whispering that seemed to come from the water itself. Without thinking, Kieran leaned over and drank. The water was cool, sharper than ice, yet softer than silk. It slipped down his throat and made his vision blur. Colors sharpened, sounds became clearer, and he felt different. Lighter, stronger, as if some invisible force was flowing through his veins. Then he heard it. "You have no idea what you just became." The voice was deep and calm, yet it sent a shiver down Kieran's spine. He spun around, but there was no one. The courtyard was empty. The twin suns hung in the sky like silent watchers, and the fountains danced as if mocking him. Kieran's heart raced. Who's there?" he whispered. No answer came. Only the water in the fountain shimmered strangely, reflecting shapes that weren't there. For a moment, he thought he saw eyes staring back at him from the liquid itself. He stepped back, trembling, but the sensation in his body was overwhelming. His senses were sharper. He could hear the faint hum of energy running through the palace walls. He could smell the faint scent of metal and ozone. And he could feel the thoughts of people near him. Someone screamed in the distance, a servant probably, and Kieran realized he had heard it before it even happened. His mind raced to make sense of it. He stumbled, gripping the edge of the fountain. Something was changing inside him. Something alive. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the top of the palace stairs. Tall, wrapped in a cloak that shimmered like liquid silver. The figure's face was hidden under a hood. "You drank from the fountain," the figure said. "Now you are bound to it. And it is bound to you." Kieran shook his head, trying to deny it. I don't understand. What do you mean?" The figure lifted a hand, and a small globe of light floated above it. Inside he could see visions, strange worlds, cities floating in space, creatures that defied imagination. The water does not just quench thirst. It awakens what lies hidden. You are no longer ordinary. You can see beyond the veil. You can touch power that mortals never reach. Kieran's mind reeled. I don't want power. I was curious. The figure's voice grew firmer. Curiosity brought you here, yes. But now you must choose. You can ignore it and suffer, or you can embrace it and survive. The choice is not easy, and it may cost you more than you can imagine. Kieran's hands shook. Survive? What do you mean? The figure's hood fell back slightly, revealing pale skin and eyes that glowed faintly silver. There are forces in the universe that will notice you now. Some are benevolent. Most are not. They hunt those who awaken. You are no longer just a boy from the streets. You are a beacon. And beacons attract attention, sometimes deadly attention. Kieran swallowed hard, trying to grasp the enormity of what was happening. He had drunk water. That was it. Or so he thought. Now everything was different. He felt a surge of something inside, a strength he couldn't name, a knowledge he couldn't understand. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. The figure stepped closer. Tonight, the palace itself will test you. The fountains, the halls, the shadows, they are alive. They will reveal your mind, your fears, and your limits. If you survive, you will understand what it means to hold this gift. If you fail, you will be consumed. Kieran's legs trembled, but some strange instinct forced him to stand tall. I will try, he said. Good, the figure said. Because the moment the twin suns set, nothing will be the same again. As Kieran turned to leave, the fountain's water surged higher, spraying light in all directions. It shimmered and twisted, forming shapes of creatures he had never seen. Tall beings with many arms, eyes that floated independently, and wings like silver sails. They seemed to watch him, whispering in a language he almost understood. Then a loud crack echoed through the courtyard. The palace gates slammed shut. The guards had vanished. The streets outside were empty. Kieran realized, with a sudden cold clarity, that he was alone. Completely alone. Except for the figure, and the power inside him. And somewhere deep in the water of the fountain, a voice whispered again. You have no idea what you just became. Kieran clenched his fists. His life had changed in an instant. The palace had chosen him, and whatever he had become, there was no turning back. He took a deep breath and stepped forward into the shadows of the courtyard, ready, or as ready as he could be, for what came next. The palace was silent, but not empty. Shadows moved in ways Kieran could not explain, stretching across the marble floors like living things. The twin suns had begun to dip below the horizon, casting long, violet streaks of light through the grand windows. Every step Kieran took echoed loudly, though he saw no one. The air smelled faintly of metal and ozone, as if electricity itself had taken shape and hovered around him. Kieran's heart pounded. He felt the power inside him stirring again, almost like it was alive, pushing him forward. He didn't know what it was or how it worked, but he could sense the palace itself watching him. Every carved wall, every fountain, every glimmering tile seemed aware of his presence. A door loomed ahead, enormous and made of crystal that shimmered like liquid moonlight. Kieran approached and a whisper brushed his ears. Enter or turn back. But no, there is no turning back. He pushed the door. It swung open silently, revealing a vast hall. The ceiling was impossibly high, and the walls were covered in intricate patterns that seemed to move when he looked at them too long. At the center of the hall was another fountain, smaller than the first, but this one glowed with a deep, violet light. The water spun slowly, forming shapes that looked like stars, planets, and galaxies. Kieran stepped closer, drawn to it again. He reached out, and the water reacted. It rose and formed a figure, a tall humanoid made entirely of liquid violet light. Its eyes glowed like molten silver, and when it spoke, the voice seemed to echo in Kieran's mind. You are awake, it said, and you are not ready. I don't understand, Kieran whispered. I just drank the water. The figure's form rippled. The water is not simple. It awakens what lies hidden. Power, knowledge, perception beyond what mortals can handle. You are a beacon now, and every beacon is hunted. Kieran felt fear grip him. Hunted? By who? The figure didn't answer immediately. Instead, the water of the fountain rose and spun around him, forming visions. He saw creatures, tall, many-limbed beings with sharp claws, glowing eyes, and wings that cut through the sky like knives. They moved through space and time as if it were nothing, always searching for something. And now they were searching for him. They are coming, the figure said. And they will not stop. You must learn quickly or die. Before Kieran could respond, the ground beneath him trembled. Tiles cracked, and from the walls poured streams of violet light. Shapes emerged. Creatures of shadow and metal, their eyes like lasers, their movements swift and unnatural. They hissed in a language Kieran couldn't understand, but he felt it deep in his chest, a warning, a threat. Instinctively, Kieran raised his hands. The power inside him surged, reacting. A wave of energy shot from his fingertips, pushing the creatures back. They hissed louder, circling him, waiting, testing him. Kieran realized then that the power from the fountain had not just awakened something. It had made him part of the palace itself. The walls, the water, even the shadows seemed to answer his will. He didn't know how he was doing it, but he felt strong. stronger than anything he had ever imagined. Yet fear gripped him as the shadowy creatures pressed closer. He had only just begun to understand what he had become, and already he was fighting for his life. Suddenly, a loud, metallic crash came from the far end of the hall. A massive creature, at least 10 feet tall, with armored skin and glowing eyes, charged at him. Its arms were like iron, and its roar shook the very ceiling. Kieran's heart raced, but his instincts kicked in. He raised his hands, and the energy around him formed a shield, throwing the creature back with a forceful pulse. It stumbled, then turned, disappearing into the shadows. Kieran's chest heaved. He had survived his first real attack, but he knew this was only the beginning. Then he felt it, a cold, whispering voice in his mind. You are not alone. Others have awakened. Others will come. Some will guide you. Most will destroy you. Kieran's head spun. Others? Were there more like him? More beacons? He didn't have time to think. The palace itself seemed to shift, corridors twisting and doors appearing where there had been walls. He ran, feeling the power inside him guiding his steps, sensing dangers before they even appeared. He entered another room. A library unlike any he had ever seen. Books floated midair, opening and closing, as if alive. Holographic maps of distant planets, galaxies, and star systems hovered over the tables. Kieran approached one. The moment he touched it, knowledge flooded his mind. Languages he had never heard, formulas he couldn't pronounce, histories of civilizations that had risen and fallen before Earth even existed. He staggered back, overwhelmed. This is too much, he whispered. The violet figure from the fountain appeared again. Do not fear. You will learn. But learning will hurt. Your mind, your body, your soul, they will all be tested. And every choice you make will have consequences far beyond this palace. Suddenly, the doors slammed shut. Shadows pooled in the corners, growing larger, sharper, angrier. The creatures were coming again, faster this time. Kieran's pulse quickened. He had to make a decision. Run, hide, or fight. Instinct took over. He focused on the energy inside him, letting it flow through his hands, his feet, his heart. A surge of violet light erupted from his body, pushing the shadows back. They screeched and hissed, retreating into the corners, but they were not gone. He could feel their eyes on him, waiting for the right moment to strike. Breathing heavily, Kieran realized something terrifying. He was not just a boy anymore. He was a weapon, a beacon, and a target. And the palace was only the beginning. The figure spoke one last time before fading. The first trial is complete. But the true trials are coming. Tonight, the palace will reveal its darkest secrets. And the universe will take notice of you. Kieran sank to the floor, exhausted but alert. He could hear the faint hum of the palace, the whispers of the fountains, the distant movements of creatures in the shadows. Every sense was heightened. Every sound, every flicker of light, every thought from the beings around him reached him with perfect clarity. He closed his eyes and tried to calm his mind. He had survived his first test, but he knew it was only a taste of what awaited. The power inside him pulsed, alive and demanding. And deep down he knew that the moment the twin suns set completely, his life, and the universe itself, would change forever. Kieran stood, brushing dust from his clothes. I don't know what I'm becoming, he whispered to himself. But I have to survive. No matter what. Outside, the palace gates creaked. Shadows shifted. Somewhere beyond the walls, the universe had noticed. And soon, Kieran would understand exactly what the voice meant. You have no idea what you just became. The palace was no longer quiet. Shadows had grown longer, deeper, twisting through the halls like living smoke. The twin suns had vanished behind the horizon, leaving the sky a deep, bleeding violet. Kieran could feel the pulse of the palace around him. Its walls, fountains, and floors all alive, sensing him, testing him. He stepped cautiously through a corridor lined with mirrors that didn't reflect his image. Instead, each mirror showed something different. Versions of himself he didn't recognize, some taller, some darker, some glowing with strange power. He realized these were possibilities. What he could become, what he could destroy, what the universe might see in him. Fear gnawed at his stomach, but the energy inside him whispered, urging him forward. Ahead, The corridor ended in a massive chamber. The ceiling was impossibly high, and at its center was a fountain larger than any he had seen before. Its water glowed like liquid starlight, swirling and pulsing with a heartbeat of its own. Around the fountain, the shadows had gathered, forming tall, twisted creatures with eyes like burning coals and bodies that shifted between metal, flesh, and shadow. "You made it this far," a deep, echoing voice said. Kieran looked up to see the hooded figure from the palace stairs. Its cloak shimmered like liquid silver, and its eyes glowed faintly. "But this is the final trial." Kieran swallowed hard. "Final trial?" "Yes," the figure said. "You are no longer a child of Earth. You are a beacon, a force the universe will notice. But every power has a cost. Every choice will shape not just you, but the worlds around you. And now, the universe will test whether you are worthy, or destroy you." The creatures hissed and lunged. Kieran braced himself. The power inside him surged, responding instinctively. Energy leapt from his hands, forming a protective barrier, but the creatures were relentless. They struck with unimaginable speed, their shadows slicing through the air like knives. Kieran realized the truth. This was not just a fight of strength, but of mind and heart. Every fear, every doubt he had ever carried, every hesitation, gave the shadows strength. He had to master himself before he could master them. Closing his eyes, Kieran focused inward, feeling the power flow through him like a river of light. He let go of fear, let go of doubt, let go of the small boy who had once only been curious about a fountain. And then he embraced it, the beacon, the awakening, the power that now defined him. When he opened his eyes, the energy around him exploded in violet and silver light. The creatures shrieked, recoiling as his presence rippled through the chamber. He lifted his hands, and the fountain rose, forming a massive wave of starlight that swept across the room. Shadows dissolved, screaming into the void, leaving only silence. Kieran stood in the center of the chamber, his chest heaving, heart pounding. The hooded figure stepped forward. "You have passed the trial," it said. "But know this. The universe will never stop noticing you. You are a beacon, and beacons attract attention. You are no longer a boy. You are something else entirely." Kieran looked at the fountain. Its water shimmered, reflecting his new self, taller, stronger, radiant with the energy that now flowed through him. I survived," he whispered. "Yes," the figure said. "But survival is only the beginning. You have power beyond understanding, knowledge beyond imagining, and enemies that will come from stars, from shadows, from realms you cannot yet comprehend." The chamber walls began to shift again, revealing portals, windows into countless worlds, galaxies, and civilizations. Some worlds were burning, others were thriving, but all were alive with energy, waiting, watching, responding to the beacon that Kieran had become. "You have a choice," the figure continued. "You can leave the palace and explore this new existence. You can seek knowledge, forge alliances, and face the universe. Or you can turn away and lose what you have gained. The power will fade, but so will the possibilities. And the palace will remember." Kieran took a deep breath. His mind was racing, but clarity had come. He understood now. He could not go back to being ordinary. He could not unsee what he had seen or undo the awakening. The universe had chosen him, and he would choose his path. "I will face it," Kieran said, his voice steady. "I will learn. I will survive. I will become more." The figure nodded, a faint smile visible under its hood. "Then go. Explore, learn, and grow. But remember, you are never alone. And the universe is always watching." As Kieran stepped toward the fountain, the water rose, forming a bridge of shimmering starlight that led to one of the portals. He hesitated for a moment, looking back at the chamber, the palace, the world he had known. Then, with determination, he stepped forward, crossing into the unknown. The moment he passed through, he felt the energy of the universe flow into him, expanding his mind and senses beyond anything he could have imagined. Stars, galaxies, civilizations, they all whispered to him, revealing secrets, possibilities, dangers, and wonders. He felt alive in a way no human had ever felt. And somewhere, deep in the palace, the first fountain pulsed once more. A whisper carried on the starlight. You have no idea what you just became. Kieran smiled. Not with arrogance, but with understanding. He was no longer just Kieran, the curious boy from the streets. He was a beacon, a force awakened by the palace, and the universe itself had noticed him. And now his journey had only begun. Far beyond the palace, in the darkness between stars, eyes watched. Some were curious. Some were wary. Some were hungry. But all knew one thing. A new player had entered the game of the cosmos. Kieran inhaled deeply. He could feel the power, the knowledge, the responsibility coursing through him. And for the first time he understood the truth of the voice he had heard from the fountain. He truly had no idea what he had become. But he would learn. And when he did, the universe would never be the same. The twin suns rose again, light spilling across the palace towers. But Kieran was already gone. A streak of violet and silver shooting into the stars, chasing the infinite possibilities of a universe waiting to be awakened.